Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi. The Spanish Inquisition resulted in the expulsion of over 100,000 Jews from Spain. These Jews were dispersed throughout the world. Among the fleeing Jews were some of the greatest rabbinical and Kabbalistic scholars of the Middle Ages, who decided to move to the land of Israel. Many of these Kabbalah scholars were drawn to Tzfat. Perched high on a mountain in the north of Israel, the town of Tzfat is considered to be one of the 4 holy cities of Israel. Tzfat is associated with the element of air, and the Zohar, a primary source of Jewish mysticism, states that the air of Tzfat is the purest in all Israel. Modern Tzfat dates back to the 16th century, when it was home to many illustrious Jewish sages and mystics, who revealed great depth of Kabbalistic secrets from the Zohar, the Book of Splendor, as written by Rabbi Shimon bar Yohai.
Tzfat is definitely a very special town. There are so many very special things about it. For example, its age. To the best of our knowledge, Tzfat is one of the oldest cities in the world, with a recorded history of approximately 4,000 years. Just like 6 years ago, in the year 2010, archaeological excavations were done here that found traces of communities living here in what they call the Middle Bronze Era. It goes back to biblical times, approximately 4,000 years. In Jewish tradition, we know that Tzfat always served as a special spiritual center, which, despite its small size of the Jewish quarter mainly, it affected world spirituality on a very large scale throughout the centuries. So people know Tzfat nowadays as the capital of the Kabbalah, the birthplace of the Kabbalah. In fact, to be more precise, all the different paradigms of the Kabbalah are associated with the history of Tzfat. Talking about the classical Kabbalah from the times of the Zohar of Rabbi Shimon bar Yohai, that was written here in the area of Tzfat, in the cave of the Idra, some part of it. It's about 2,000 years ago, 2nd century or so. Medieval times, 16th century, we have the Lurianic Kabbalah, Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Holy Ari, who discovered new depth of the Kabbalah and of the Zohar, and made the Kabbalah actually accessible to all through learning, through practices, through rituals, through meditations, unifications. Some even call Hasidism the soul of the Kabbalah. Hasidism, when it came and, when it was shared with the world in the 18th century and 19th century, it livened up all of the Jewish practices through singing and understanding and involvement of the soul and feelings, in everything that a person does. And the Hasidic movement actually was founded by Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov of blessed memory towards the middle 18th century. And then his followers actually came to Tzfat in the year 1777. It was the first aliyah, the first immigration of Hasidic Jews to the land of Israel. And they came to Tzfat. 300 people came here to establish in Tzfat a world center for Hasidism, which is another paradigm of the Kabbalah. So we see therefore how Tzfat's history is embedded with all these, great things that happened here in the realm of Kabbalah, teaching, spreading it, revealing new depths of it and so on, and sharing it with the world. And the Kabbalists explain that there's something very special to the energy of Tzfat. And this is how they rationalize the fact that they all came here throughout the centuries from the 4 corners of the world. And they write in their writings of the 16th century, they say, we're here because of the air of Tzfat. There's something to the air of Tzfat that opens up the hidden channels of the soul and mind to understand Kabbalah like in no other place in the world. It's really magical. Behind me is actually Beit Abu, which is related to another very special tradition that's happening here in Tzfat for 183 years now. Every Lag BaOmer, a parade starts from here. It's a musical, very festive parade. It takes on hours and hours of dancing with an ancient Torah, Sefer Torah, Torah scroll, taken from one of the most ancient synagogues in Tzfat, called Hatzadik Halavan. And the Torah is like 600 years old, and hundreds of people are actually dancing with it, with a klezmer music band, Jewish soul music, in the streets of Tzfat. And then eventually it gets to Meron, to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, for the celebration of Lag BaOmer once a year.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was the one that decided that all the spiritual world of Judaism would be revealed, that the Yalkut book would be written. And he was known also that he was a very strict person. But anyone who was in trouble, you can go to him. The Gemara says, when you're in a very, when it's very tough, go to Rabbi Shimon. Though he was strict, but if things are too hard for you, you can go for him. He will open the skies, he will tear up the heavens, and he would make things better. And the combination between these sides, two sides of his personality, that go on and reveal, and then go on and be buried with the common people. And if somebody is in trouble, you can come to Rabbi Shimon. It's all explodes in Lag BaOmer, the day that he passed.
The festival of Lag BaOmer is also the anniversary of the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, author of the first Kabbalistic work, the Zohar. When the Ari, the great Kabbalist of the 16th century, came to Tzfat, one of the customs that he instituted was that of visiting the tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on Mount Meron on Lag BaOmer. In the 19th century, a new tradition was added, taking a Torah scroll from the home of the Abu family in Tzfat and walking it to Mount Meron.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was, first of all, one of the most important legislators in our history, one of the Tanaim who have passed over the oral Torah. And he is the student of Rabbi Akiva. That means that from Mount Sinai to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we have 41 teachers. He's the 41. And he was also one of those who had learned what we call Torat HaSod, is the inner parts of the Kabbalistic teachings of the Torah. Maybe I'll explain that for a minute. Though we don't have any prophets anymore, but the code of prophecy is the basics of the Kabbalistic teaching. The Kabbalah is passing the secrets of the Torah, the higher dimension of the spiritual life of Torah, but within inside of it there is the code of prophecy. And that's the reason to keep it, and that's the reason to keep it a secret. Until the times that prophecy will come back, we have the time that we have only practicing the code. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was learning that from Rabbi Akiva and from his teachers, and the whole story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai started when there was a meeting to try to figure out what's the real attitude towards the Roman Empire. And at that meeting, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, the Roman Empire is an evil empire. Whatever they do, they don't do it for the commonwealth, they're doing it for their greediness. Of course, the Empire Roman police heard about it very quickly, and they sentenced him to death. And he fled to the Galilee, and he found there a cave. He and his son called Elazar, Rabbi Elazar, and they've been there for 12 years. And then they've done something that is very revolutionary. Until Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, the only way to learn the secrets of the Kabbalah was to really purify yourself so much that you will be able to go to another dimension, to another spiritual and holy world. And during that 12 years, that's what happened. That in the cave, the Holy Spirits of our forefathers and the prophets came to teach him in the cave. After 12 years, he went out of the cave because the Roman canceled the death sentence, and he started teaching a very small group what he had learned in the cave. And at the last day of his life, he taught his last teaching. That last teaching, he revealed secrets that were never revealed. And the only thing I can tell about it is that everyone in the world that had an experience with a non-material world, with a spiritual world, knows that what we see, what we hear, is not exactly what's out there. There's a lot of us looking at the things out there. That's the reason we can't see anything as it is. And in that last day, he started the revelation of what is really out there. At the end of the day, when the sun set, he felt that his soul is ending its time here. And he told his son that from now on, Rabbi Elazar, his son, would be the oral teacher, and Rabbi Abba, his student, would be the one who writes the teaching. And he gave them the commandment to summarize the book and start giving the book to the groups that study Kabbalah. And he passed away.
The Zohar was written by Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba was one of the students of Rabbi Shimon, and in fact he was the scribe to write the Zohar. Although the Zohar was written in the 2nd century, it has been concealed for hundreds of years. The first time that the Zohar was revealed was in Guadalajara in Castilla, in Spain, by the Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe de Leon. This was approximately 700 years ago. At the time, there was another school that was founded in Spain, in another place, in Catalonia, in northern Spain, in the city of Girona. It's another school that didn't quite have the Zohar at the time. But everyone knew in both schools and in both places in Spain that the time for the revelation of the Kabbalah has come. So although it's written in the Zohar, in more than one place, that those secrets are to remain secrets and not to be shared with the world. In another place in the Zohar it says that there will come a time that the knowledge not just can be shared, but should be shared and be accessible and available to all. And the time has come then 700 years ago. And throughout the centuries, what attracted those lofty minds of scholars and spiritual leaders, Kabbalists to Tzfat, was the fact that not far from here is the burial place, the tomb of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. They felt and they knew that his soul lives on. The energy, the teachings, the legacy of Rabbi Shimon is vibrant and alive very much here in Tzfat. So therefore they came here throughout the centuries to be close to Rabbi Shimon. And Jewish people have made pilgrimages to Mount Meron, to the gravesite of Rabbi Shimon, for centuries and centuries. It's even told about the holy Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, at the time when he was still living in Egypt, before making the Aliyah, the pilgrimage to Tzfat, eventually where he ended up living here. Before then, when his own son, Rabbi Moshe, was just 3 years old, the holy Ari came specially from Egypt to Mount Meron to do the special haircut for his son by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai.
The Ari found the Enlightenment book and looked at it, and he said, how can anybody understand what's written in there? If I want to teach it to someone, how can ever he can get it? So he sat in isolation for 10 years. And again, by his prayers and meditation, he got to understand the code of the Enlightenment book. And he gave us the code. The code is, on one side, very simple, but it's so simple, again, it's hard to get it. The code is a combination of the spheres and the Hebrew letters. And from there on, he developed the code. He went from Egypt to Tzfat because he had Elijah, who was known that he was taken to the heavens by the chariots of fire, and he revealed himself to Ari and told him, you have 2 years. Now there's not a lot of time. And if you want to do something with this code that you wanted, you have to go to Tzfat, find there your student that I am sending from Damascus, because his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, was living that time in Damascus. And they really met there in Tzfat. And the Ari taught him in 2 years. And he was teaching, and Rabbi Chaim Vital was writing. And all of a sudden there was a very, it's not simple really, but there was a code to how to see, first of all, how to read the Enlightenment book. And secondly, how to see that the things that are written in the Enlightenment book in a very high spiritual language is really written already in the Bible. So this is what the Ari gave the world, that we can see how the Bible, the Oral Torah, and the Enlightenment book are all based on the same code, on the same language, and how does that connect with, of course, the prophets and the prophecy. So this is what the Ari taught us, and since then, really, if you want to learn Kabbalah, if you want to learn the Enlightenment book, you have to go through the books of the Ari.
Our sages say, Kabbalists say, that the place, the tomb of Rabbi Shimon, is such a holy place, it's almost like the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Numbers speak of like 12 to 13 million that visit the Kotel, the Western Wall, every year, while 3 million people visit Mount Meron every year. And out of these 3 million, 500,000 people come just on one day. See the place, you see helicopters fly around the tomb. Some people don't have time, you know. They come especially from overseas. We met many Hasidim that come from overseas just to be in Israel, just to be by Rabbi Shimon for these 24 hours. I want to say one other thing. Other tombs of the sages, of the tzaddikim, of the Kabbalists, many of them are dotted in the area around Tzfat. Some make you more, you know, spiritually uplifted. Some make you more meditative. Some make you more connected to things, to your inner self and so on. But that place makes you happy. This is something very, very unique and special. And another thing quoted by Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, he said, what's so special about the people of Tzfat in the area is how they express themselves, speaking like, oh, I'm going to Rabbi Shimon now, and then I'm going to Rabbi Yossi. Then later on I'm going to Rabbi Meir in Tveria and so on, Tiberias. It's so interesting, you know, it's like they're saying it. They mean like they're going to visit someone who's there, someone who's living. It's not like I'm going to visit the tomb of Rabbi Shimon, like someone who's, you know, passed away. Rabbi Shimon is like, it's a very personal engagement, interaction, you know, with the soul of Rabbi Shimon that's there, waiting for all the people that come there to uplift them, to make them happy and joyous, and take this spiritually, joyfully uplifting feeling for them through their entire life until their next visit.
Welcome back. More than 500,000 people from Israel and around the world descend on Tzfat and Meron during the festival of Lag BaOmer. For many Jews, this represents a very auspicious time for soul searching, for pouring out their hearts to the Almighty, and for aspiring to greater meaning in their lives.
As you can see around us today here in Tzfat, especially today, there are many celebrations of Bar Mitzvah. Not just that in Meron today we were able to see lots of, the haircut, the option is, the chalak as it's called, the first haircut of the 3 years old. But also, some real good celebrations of Bar Mitzvah here in Tzfat. Celebrating a Bar Mitzvah, not just on Lag BaOmer, but any time in Tzfat, is something very special to it. Why is it? Because if we look at Jewish literature, we won't find any source except for one, which is the Zohar of Rabbi Shimon bar Yohai, where there's a mention of the Bar Mitzvah celebration that Rabbi Shimon did in honor of his son's Rabbi Elazar's Bar Mitzvah. And Rabbi Shimon expressed himself saying in the Zohar there and then that the day of the Bar Mitzvah of a person, the celebration, is as joyous and as special as the day of the wedding ceremony of a person. Therefore, we have the term Chatan Bar Mitzvah, the groom of Bar Mitzvah. What's the comparison? Why are the two linked? Bar Mitzvah, Bat Mitzvah, and a wedding ceremony. Think about it. What is actually happening under the canopy when a husband and wife, two extreme opposites, are uniting and becoming one? It takes a supreme power to connect the two opposites. That's why sages say, if a husband and wife married, then the divine presence dwell among them. Same thing is happening actually a few other times in the person's life, but the major time is the Bar Mitzvah and Bat Mitzvah for a girl. Boy at 13, girl at 12. As we read in Code of Jewish Law, the soul and the body then unite. In fact, it says these words in Code of Jewish Law, it's the ending of the penetration of the godly soul into the body. That's what makes this day so special. Same thing with the circumcision, the Brit Milah, as godliness is entering the body, physicality, through the mitzvah, through the circumcision. So beautiful. And all those rituals are always associated in a way, yes, with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Because it is the work of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai that taught us and demonstrated to us how we connect godliness with the world. The divine wisdom which is taught in the Zohar, it's not just like something, so high, lofty, we just feel like flying high. You do feel like flying high. But at the end of the day, the teachings of Rabbi Shimon is what enables each and every person to bring down divinity, godliness into the world through good deeds, good utterances, good thoughts. And Kabbalah, the Kabbalah of Rabbi Shimon, teach each and every individual how he can do that.